Hello, everyone. Welcome to I Can't Know Music, I'll Know Music, Episode 8. My name is Michael Knipp, and I am here with my co-host, Blake.
Hello.
You may have noticed that we're doing this a little different this week. We have a video going. We got a live chat going. We're going to try to do this a little bit more like hashtag. If you're watching the video version, you will not get sound clips because I don't feel like dealing with YouTube's copyright stuff. But if you listen to the audio version because you think it sounds rad, which you may not want to do this week. Oh my goodness. What's going on?
What? Did our chat explode?
No. I can hear everything that I'm saying. What? Oh my goodness, I'm so confused. Well, this is what happens when you do it live. I had the video open, so I was getting all of our video like 30 seconds behind what I was saying, and I started hearing. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. If you want to listen to the audio clips, you can listen to the audio version, and I'll put those in there, though spoilers, you may not want to. We'll see.
Yeah.
How's it going, man? So we've been listening to this album for about a week.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right into it. What's your overview?
The general consensus for this album, for the both of us, is that it's kind of not that great. I see it more as a very revolutionary album, but I think that it did a lot of stuff kind of poorly, and could have been a lot better.
So yeah, I think I generally agree. So I talked to somebody who's really into music about this album and asked, what is the big deal about this album? How important was it? It was not very well received critically initially, though later on it eventually, like modern day best albums of all time lists will have this album on it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I disagree with, but I find it, I don't know. It's whatever. We'll get to that.
I feel like it would have stood up better in its own time rather than like compared to now with new wave as its own genre and how it has evolved. I think that this album as itself doesn't really stand very well compared to a lot of other stuff.
So I looked up new wave, and evidently it's kind of like the earliest versions of like synth pop are kind of what new wave was. Though this album is coming off, it has a very punk-ish feel to it, and very little synth going for it. And so like it ends up just being a weird punk album that has some synth. From 1978 was the year that this album came out. And I guess it was super important because it was one of the like progenitors of synth pop as it was coming around. And then also it was mixing punk with pop music in a way that I guess eventually I would come to love, because pop punk tends to be the genre that I lean towards the heaviest. But it's very early, and I think that these guys had a lot to say, and they didn't know how to say it in a way that would work very well through time.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this album kind of relates to David Bowie's first album, where I feel like they have a lot of stuff going on in their mind, and I feel like it could be really cool, but they just don't know how to execute it very well at all.
I agree. The difference, and like here's the hardest part. So the difference is the David Bowie album that we listened to, I really enjoyed and I thought was fun. And I would totally, in fact, I listen to it periodically because I still think it's really interesting and fun to listen to. Where this album, I feel like it has the same sentiment of they want to say something and they're not very good at it. But I think it comes across in the modern day as being really kind of just obnoxious. And I mean that as it sounds. I don't particularly like listening to this album or really many of the songs on it at all. The weirdest thing, and I brought this up when I was talking to someone else about this album today, was that David Bowie's album came out in '67. His Space Oddity album, which we also covered, came out in '69. This album came out in 78, so that's 10 years later, and then the next year after this, The Wall came out, which I don't know about you, but I would consider that either the number 1 or number 2 slot on my favorite album that we've covered on this podcast, and that was only 1 year after this. So it's not like other music that was good did not exist, or more interesting or whatever, did not exist around this time period. It's just that it was doing something in a genre that I don't think I would have cared for very much back then.
Well, yeah, and they essentially created this genre. So
they were definitely evolved. Like the Ramones dropped an album before this, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Ramones dropped. So like there was punk before this that was probably better. I haven't heard a lot of it.
Yeah,
but it's the I think the main thing that they innovated on was the blend of the types of music.
Yeah,
and I just guess that it's not very timeless.
Yeah, but like I mean the new wave novelty band type thing, I think that they set a fairly solid groundwork for that with this album, and I can definitely see influences in bands like the Aquabats, who aren't new wave in themselves. They're like, well, I guess they're more new wave now, but they're like this superhero ska band. But anyways, they have, I think that Devo, what they didn't do was they didn't define themselves and give themselves like almost lore. They tried to be this novelty band where they're singing these nonsense songs about different things, but they didn't have a set path. Where the Aquabats, they are the, you know, defenders of good and fighters of evil, and they go against, you know, monsters, and they dress up as superheroes and stuff like that, to the point where they're even like at one point Aquabats and Guar, another novelty band who are like aliens, they went like head to head on this radio show. I don't know how it ended, but like they have a specific lore set that this is their story, this is what they do, and it justifies their obnoxiousness.
Yeah, I think one of my main struggles for this, and obviously this is way early on, like you mentioned, is just that the amount of original, and by original I mean non-repeated lyrics or new lyrics introduced into each of these songs is so low. There's almost none of these songs in this album I don't think have more than 6 lines, and then everything is just repeated, or you go back and add a line every couple repeats, and the music is so repetitive in a way that I guess that like that's what old people think about the music, that like modern pop punk as well. So I guess it's just always sounded different to people that didn't like the genre, but it just I can't do it. And in my brain, and maybe I'm wrong because I'm interpreting this from a 2015 mindset, looking at the Wikipedia page and looking at the title, the album title is called Q, Are We Not Men? Answer, We Are Devo. And it looks like, according to the Wikipedia page, it's based on a thing that happens in the island of Dr. Moreau, a book that was written by H.G. Wells. And it looks like the album as a whole was kind of this like almost punk rebel, anti-consumerism, like it's just saying Americans are just idiots who follow their primal urges and like don't think about things. Like those are the things that come across in this album, and it almost seems like they are trying to, in their songs even, like through repetition and through somewhat like nonsense lyrics, or like a lot of their lyrics on this album I found to be like vaguely sexual and kind of like a stupid or gross way or something. Like it's like I think they're trying, at least the way I'm interpreting it, is like they're trying to say, hey, America is just full of like blind animalistic monsters who just want stuff and who don't care about things that matter and don't think about things. But it's almost like they go so far down the road of trying to say this that their music just comes across as being monotonous and repetitive and consumeristic and animalistic. Like, it's like, and like, this is a weird example. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't like video games, a lot of times a video game will make a joke about bad video game design by having bad video game design in it. And it doesn't give you a free pass to call out the bad things if you don't do anything on top of the bad things to make them better.
You can't just point it out and say that I'm doing this because it's funny. You actually have to do something to make it funny.
Yeah, or you can, but it can't be an entire album of we're just doing what we're making fun of. We're just doing what we're making fun of for 11 songs in a row. For I guess it's only 34 minutes. I guess I listened to it a bunch of times fast.
It was a shorter album, which made it more bearable.
But if
this was a 14-track album, I probably wouldn't be able to listen to it all the way through.
It's hard. I listened to it a bunch of times in a row just today as I was finishing up my notes, and was like, maybe that's why I'm extra angry, because I listened to it. But like, I did the same thing with every other album that we listened to, and it didn't seem to be a problem. But I don't know. I think that's kind of the thing I wanted to say. It's hard to go across each of these songs individually, because there's not a lot that they're saying short of that theme that I mentioned. I want to throw some trivia out here, which this kind of goes along with what I was saying, which is like they're trying to point out something bad. The Wikipedia article and also somebody else that I talked to mentioned that there's a song on the album called Jocko Homo. I think that's what they say.
It translates to monkey men.
Well, and it's relating back to the theory of animal, like their entire name, Devo, has to do with the fact that they think that instead of evolving and getting better, mankind is devolving into like a stupid animalistic race or whatever. That's kind of what goes along with the book that I mentioned at the beginning. So this song actually has the question, are we not men? And they answer, we are Devo. It refers to the book where the scientist asks a bunch of mutant monsters that he creates, are we not men, or something similar like that. Like the song is obviously playing on the fact that humankind is getting stupider and this kind of theme. The thing that I find funny was evidently when they would play this song in concerts, they would intentionally repeat this song over and over and over and over until they thought the crowd was so ticked. Like they would intentionally wait for a certain anger level in the crowd before they would stop playing the song. They were intentionally making everyone mad. And it's like, well, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to prove your point, but it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like and like maybe that was way more original back in the day, but I still don't feel like that gives you a free pass.
Yeah. Stating your point over and over again, it makes people know what your point is, but it doesn't necessarily prove it very well at all.
No, and like their point was that people didn't get it, and maybe the fact that they had to repeat it so many times or whatever, like they're rubbing it in everyone's face. It's just so up front, which I don't know. There's something to be said for like dedication or whatever to what you're trying to say, but I don't know. This was another band that, and I think that lots of bands through time, lots of good bands get a lot of followers who just follow them because it's the cool thing to do, and they don't understand what people are listening to. And I believe that Devo was one of those bands that, like, they had a cult following. They were never super popular. This album did not go gold until 2007, which was a big deal back then when albums actually sold. And it's not like a ton of people listen to it, but evidently a lot of people that did hear their music and listen to them just kind of listened to them for the, hey, these guys are weird, they're not like anything else, and they didn't actually get what they were trying to say, which happens a lot with people that listen to music. They don't really pay attention to what it's about. And like that was kind of the reason they were so angry. They thought that people were stupid. Like they didn't like their fans. Like Nirvana. Wow. Nirvana was known for being like that. Pink Floyd's The Wall is like, there's large portions of the album that are about that. Like, hey, pay attention to what we're trying to say. Don't just follow us and smoke drugs because you think we're cool. Like, I understand that as someone that like does a music podcast and like was talking to people about it, and like evidently the last the last podcast that we did was the first time that most of our listeners actually listened to one of the albums we talked about. And that's I was cool. Like, no, what are you doing? Like, that's the whole point of the show. We're trying to get to listen to albums. But it's like, I understand the frustration with the people like not doing what you're trying to get them to do. But this album is just so angry and so obnoxious is the best example of what it is. What's another song you want to pull out? Like that we mentioned Joko Homo. Mongoloid, even by the title you can tell what it's about. Obviously it's about like cavemen.
Yeah. Space Junk has a kind of story. Stuff is falling from the sky and it kills his girlfriend.
Well, and like I talked to somebody and evidently that song was probably written about I think it was like a failed missile launch or something that happened around that time. It's kind of an anti-war theme going along with the whole album's theme of like, you know, men are monsters or men are animals or whatever. Like, and like there's something to be said for that. But the problem is, and like I can only go with the music history that I understand. But even with the music history that we've already talked about so far, David Bowie was addressing weird concepts in like semi-subversive ways on his first album in 67 is what I think I said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 67, 78.
Like he wasn't picking sides, I don't think, as much as Devo was trying to. But like he was addressing weird topics smarter than these guys were. So you have to then go, well, these guys were more inventive in their genre. Because even by Space Oddity, David Bowie had the weirdness thing down.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I just don't like their music. I don't think it's that good. At least this album's not that good. I don't know anything past this.
I mean, their singles did well. People listened to those.
What were the singles for this guy?
Or sorry, not this album, but I mean, other singles like Whip It or Through Being Cool, or you know, other ones. The singles for this album were Joko Homo and Come Back Johnny, which
okay.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm going to play a bunch of clips from this, and I'll have to figure out where we put them. It may actually make this podcast easier to edit if we put them all in one section. But like, you will hear in the clips what we are trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very repetitive, very monotonous, and the guy's voice is very obnoxious. And I think he's trying for it. That's why I have a hard time. I think he's going for obnoxious. Well, I feel like he's going for irritating. Like obviously he was going for irritating when you repeat your song so much that everyone gets mad at you. Like I think the entire album was supposed to be a little bit irritating. Like it's almost like a method acting. Like it's like performance art in a way, but I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're trying to say. I'm just not down with it. You mentioned, what was another one that you saw that you said you could talk about? Oh, I Can't Get No Satisfaction's a cover.
Yeah.
Of the Stones.
It's definitely an original cover. It doesn't sound because like the Stones, but I don't think they executed it poorly. I do think they executed it poorly.
Yeah, I listened to it and didn't realize that. Like, I mean, I know that the song "I Can't Get No Satisfaction" is a Stones song, but I assumed when I first heard it, like, I was like, this doesn't even sound like a cover. Like, it sounds, I don't know.
Yeah, they made it
album for us to talk about. Yeah, they definitely were creative with it, if nothing else. It's just lame because, like, even the albums I haven't enjoyed as much as other albums, I really liked doing. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, I've made a Spotify playlist for all the I Can't Know Music on No Music songs, and I'm gonna have to put these songs in the playlist,
and listen to them.
Knowing that I am probably gonna skip them every single time they come on. It just has to be on the playlist to be on the playlist. Is there anything else you want to hit? Anything else Anything major?
I don't think so. I think we got it all.
Just a short album.
Yeah. I can say one thing. Looking for notes through this album was very easy, given the short amount of lyrics. Also, you would get through about half the song, and there would be no new lyrics, so you could just skip over the rest. Yeah. But I mean, definitely I see this as an influential ground laying of what's the word? Novelty bands and new wave. And I think that they had good intentions with the album, but yeah, it really wasn't done very well. If you look at the song Too Much Paranoia, you can definitely see influences with, in my opinion, the Aquabats' Powdered Milkman, which is a song about the Aquabats fighting this villain, the Powdered Milkman, who destroys breakfasts by replacing milk with powdered milk, and then everyone is sad. But
the thing that you just said is more lyrics than any of these songs actually have. You just said that one paragraph, and it's more lyrics than any of these have.
Yeah, I think that they definitely need lyrical work, which I'm guessing they probably had to do in order to get more successful albums and like not just novelty songs.
And I want to sound like I don't want to sound like a modern jerk who doesn't understand that obviously the first iteration of something cannot be the best iteration of something. Mm-hmm. So I understand that the stuff that we're getting now,
like Weezer Blue.
Yes, yeah, there are rare exceptions, but for the most part, like, this is a very novel thing that eventually became something that was much cooler. And obviously, the thing back then can't be as cool. But there was weird novelty stuff with David Bowie's first two albums before this. Like, I'm not trying to say I don't understand. I'm not trying to say I expect it to be perfect. I'm just saying I think that there were 10 years before this came out. There were things doing this kind of thing better in a different genre. Maybe it's a genre thing I don't get. Whatever. I don't want to act like I don't understand that music evolves over time. I'm just saying I don't think this actually fit well even then. But that's me. So instead of just I don't know. I'm gonna play clips. I'll put those somewhere when I edit the track. Let's talk about, I don't know, we'll be a little bit different. We'll go off the cuff a little bit more. Let's just do some other stuff. So somebody mentioned to me, sorry, the other room, my vacuum just exploded, I think. And so last week, someone mentioned to me that we did not try to rank the albums that we've done on the show by our favorite to least favorite, which we had been doing for a couple episodes in a row. So I say that we try to hit that again just to go over it for those people that may not know, and they can go back and listen to certain one of these. I think it's safe to say that this is probably the worst.
Yeah, I could say that.
What do you think the best is?
Let me pull up a list. I would probably have to say The Wall, or if we're going by like quality of music, I would say The Wall or My Chemical Romance.
So The Wall or The Black Parade?
Yeah. If we're going by the most fun to like analyze and stuff, I would probably say Protégé, and I don't know. I think I really enjoyed the first album, David Bowie's first album. I had a lot of fun looking for stuff, and there was a fair bit of stuff about it as well, which was really cool.
Especially since it's the oldest album that we've done so far still.
And then there's a pretty close third between that and Black Parade.
I have a hard time picking personally between the Black Parade and The Wall. I think I'm partial somewhat to theme albums at the least and concept albums at the best. And those are both great concept albums. And The Black Parade is in a genre that I like as a whole more, but I love the music in The Wall as well. Like those are both albums. The Black Parade's strength is that it can be broken up and you can listen to individual songs out of context and it still can be really good. The Wall's strength is that it is a much more cohesive story that you can listen to from beginning to end, and then spoilers, back to the beginning again. And it makes more sense and it fits better as a cohesive story. And I think those are the strengths of those. David Bowie's first album, that first album that we did, and it's so different and so quirky and so weird, I also loved doing. That was fun to do, and it was so different than anything I'd heard that I still really enjoy that. I didn't like his second album as much, but I still liked it. And like his stuff is so different, and even when it sounds closer to things of that time period, like his second album did, Space Oddity, he does... It's very different from the standard stuff. He's still very creative, even in a space that's already more defined, when he's in a space that's more defined. I really loved Fashion Nugget by Cake. I was just listening to songs from that album again this week.
Did you check out Comfort Eagle?
I have not checked out Comfort Eagle yet.
Okay. Because that, in my opinion, that far surpasses any other Cake album.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. There's a lot of music that I really like, and then a lot of music that I need to listen to still.
Speaking of artists that we've covered, Protégé released a new album sometime this year. I don't know. Anyways, I checked it out. It was pretty good. I just listened to it.
I haven't listened to it yet.
It feels a lot like 8 Year Affair, but I mean,
okay, that's cool. I liked that album.
Yeah, I listened to it a few times.
The thing is, as silly as that album is, you know, and as much as it kind of is like a joke album, but also like kind of isn't. Like I will let that album play when it comes on my playlist because I find that music pretty chill and pretty different. It's a nice change of pace from all the rest of the stuff that I listen to. So. Like that was cool and that was fun to like do. We got to do the Rastafari dictionary, and like look up what everything was about. Like that was really cool to do. Maybe we should do that new Protégé album sometime. I think that'd be cool. I'm looking at the albums. I feel like we talked about all of them. This next week, we're going super back and forth on what we want to listen to, and I wrote it down, so I need to find it.
We went over like
we decided to go
300 different albums very quickly.
Yeah, we were scrolling through different albums and just like listening to them on 4x speed, going, "Hey, did you hear that one? Nope, that sounds too chipmunky. Let me slow it down. Nope, it still sounds too chipmunky." No, we decided to go with a 2015 album. So this will be the most current album we've ever done, surpassing Protégé's 8 Year Affair. We're going to listen to... I wrote down the wrong album, but it is called Mobile Orchestra, and it is by Owl City. So that's going to be really different and a lot more mainstream than anything else we've done, I think.
We also wanted to get away from like punk, alt-rock type stuff. Because we do a lot as well. And that's the stuff that we listen to. So.
Yeah, that's the stuff I would normally listen to more often, which I am okay with doing on the show, but I don't want to only do that on the show. I want to hit some weird stuff too, which, I don't know, I guess I listen to Owl City anyway, but I have not heard this album. I didn't even realize it was out. So I think that'll be fun. I do like some Owl City. His first album, which I can't remember what it was called, I really, really like. It came out when I was in high school. It was a good... It's still a good chill out one to throw on.
Dude,
yeah, that one.
That song it holds up. Like every once in a while, like I think our church has a CD with something or the Fireflies on it. which we play in the gym, and I occasionally hear it. And every time it comes on, I'm like, this song is really good, and it still holds up.
Yes, now that it's not played on the radio all the time, you can go back to and be like, oh yeah, I do like this song. And like, I just hated it because it was on all the time. I didn't hate it because it was a bad song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're doing, I wrote that. Yes, Owl City's Mobile Orchestra next week. So I guess we'll just jump back into it. What's something you've been listening to this week that you've been digging other than this? Well, I guess normally I say digging other than this album, but what have you listened to this week that you've been liking?
This week, with my Discovery playlist, I had a lot of stuff that I've had at least already heard the artist. Like it wasn't a lot of whole new stuff, but I picked up Cage the Elephant's new album. It's not new; it came out like last year or something, and I can't remember what it's called. I'll look it up. But it's pretty good. It's definitely a lot different than their previous album. It's not as heavy per se, where they had in the last album they had a lot more heavy rock, and they were a lot more angry per se, or at least angry sounding. This one definitely takes a vibe, bordering on the grounds of like indie rock, indie pop type stuff. So a track to note would be, I can't remember what it's called. I'll find out what the album name is and all that stuff.
In the meantime, I mentioned last week that I've been listening to Death Cab for Cutie's new album. I'm still going through albums I've listened to this year and kind of going through them again. I really like... for some reason, people hate Imagine Dragons. I think Imagine Dragons is tight, and their album that came out this year called Smoke and Mirrors is really good. I have some of the songs from that on my 2015 favorites playlist, and then also I just think that the album has a weird and different vibe. Like, I don't mind pop music, especially when pop music sounds different than other pop music. So I like that album a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, the album is called Melophobia, and the track is Take It or Leave It.
All right, sweet. I feel like this has been way too short.
Yeah. What time did we start?
The album was really short. I don't remember, and then I also recorded for a long time before I officially started the podcast because we were talking about albums to pick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think to try to get this closer to an hour, let's just talk about some stuff. So you like what's your favorite artist? We'll talk about this. We don't usually talk about this.
Ooh. Just all in all, like all time would probably have to be like either Reliant K or maybe Switchfoot. I think Switchfoot holds up a lot better than Reliant K normally does. But I don't know. I have a lot of nostalgia for Reliant K.
You also like ska as a genre.
Oh, 5-iron. I'm wearing a 5-iron shirt right now. It's one of their old ones. It has a sun stain.
Nice. That's actually
right down the side because it was in storage for like 10 years and got in the sun, and then I bought it for $6 from their website.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I had assumed that that's who you were gonna say was your favorite.
They're up there. Like they're close number 3.
So you said Reliant K, Switchfoot, 5-iron. If I picked 3,
those are a really solid, tight
grouping
tolerances between. Yeah.
If those were a target after you would practice target shooting, they would be virtually the same hole, but not quite the same hole.
It's like a Venn diagram of. I'm trying to make a Venn.
Music.
That
with your fingers, he was trying to make a Venn diagram for those of the audio podcast.
KKK. It's a Venn diagram.
We're not okay with that. Yeah, so my favorite, if I picked 3, it'd probably be Switchfoot is my number 1 favorite. Switchfoot is one of the kind of the first. Switchfoot's The Beautiful Letdown is honestly probably one of the first albums that, as like a teenager, like growing up, that I really paid attention to, and the theme really resonated with me, and it was something I actually could get behind. And so The Beautiful Letdown it still holds the top slot. I guess that makes sense, of my favorite album of all time, probably. My second favorite artist is harder to pick. I really, really like Weezer since discovering them a couple years ago. And then also, there's a band that recently went on indefinite hiatus called The Wedding, which a lot of people may not know about just because their genre's a little weirder. But The Wedding is really good, weird, like Southern mixed with emo, mixed with like rowdy punk hard rock. And it's not for everyone, I guess. But it gets me super pumped, and I've always liked them since hearing them back in like 2005. I mean, they're a younger band compared to some of the other stuff that we talk about, but I really like that stuff. When did you start paying attention to like music as a scene instead of just a thing that people put on to listen to?
It would probably have to be when I started being able to actually obtain music, which was, I want to say, about 7th or 8th grade. That was a few years ago. I don't know. How old are people when they're in 7th grade? Like 12?
I don't know.
Say 5 years ago. So, yeah, it was fairly basic back then, and I wasn't listening to a lot of my own stuff. It was mostly just like stuff that I had heard about from either Amanda, which was essentially just stuff that she had heard about from you. And I didn't do a lot of my own research, but then I think it really started to pick up when I was about a freshman, which is when I started getting really into like ska and stuff like that, which was definitely my introduction into like actual music research and stuff like that, where I'm going more in depth than just listening to the album.
Yeah, just hearing it, you're actually paying attention to what it's saying. I'm guessing mine would have been around 2004-ish, because I would have got The Beautiful Letdown a little bit later. And then, after I listened to The Beautiful Letdown, it was one of those things, like, I had the album and I knew that I liked the song Meant to Live, and I let it play, and like it was one of those things where, like, when I was a kid, I would just repeat the same songs over and over, and I would set up my CD to like play certain songs, and I liked Meant to Live and Dare You to Move because those were the songs I knew from the radio. And eventually it was one of those days where like you are playing around in your room or you're reading or something and you just don't care about skipping the songs, and then you let the rest of the songs play. And just after hearing that album probably 20 times or something all the way through, I was just like, wait a second, there's not a single song on this album that I'm not totally down with. And like you get to the point where you know every single note, the timing of every single song. Like if it takes just a half second longer to start playing the next song from the previous song, you're like, wait, what's wrong? Like I'm supposed to hear that sound. I know what this is supposed to sound like. And like after getting so into that album, like I cared about I was like, I gotta check out their older albums. And like I was at the point where I had some money and was starting to get disposable income, and like I branched out. That's when I branched out to Reliant K and some other like Christian rock stuff, some of which, like, most of that stuff doesn't hold up. I'm gonna say that, like, Christian music is a hit or miss, like even more so than a lot of secular music is. Like some of it is really good and I think holds up well, and then some of it's really bad. But Switchfoot and Reliant K, at least Reliant K from like maybe two lefts on, holds up okay. And then I branched out to all kinds of weird stuff, eventually spawning to this show, which is just, hey, whatever. I'll listen to music if it's not country. Which I think that's something we can agree on. Country music is really bad.
Bad.
And like people try to point out Yeah, here's a great like spawning back to this album. People talk about country music and they'll be like, "Well, did you know that rap music spawned from country music?" And I would say, "Okay, I have heard that before, but like that doesn't mean that country was good. It just means that it made something that I do like." Because I don't know how you feel about rap music, but I actually really like some rap. But like I like, for instance, I don't really like this album at all, but I like a lot of crap that came after it because of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I like this album.
Mm-hmm.
Also, maybe I wouldn't hate as much old country. I just hate. I
New
cannot
country.
stand modern country.
It's really bad.
At all. Like I
I
listened to. We went
day.
to.
Well, at least half the day.
we went to Dallas this year, and we stopped. Just when you stop at restaurants or whatnot, and it's just playing. I'm like, Amanda would just look at me and be like, "No, we need to leave." And I'm like, "We can't leave. We have to eat food." Like I'm so hungry. This music is the worst. And I don't know. I guess I'm not disparaging people that listen to country music, except like any farther than the point where like I think the music that you listen to is crappy. Like that is the farthest I will disparage you. Which I guess coming from someone that's really into music and think music can like largely define a person, maybe that means I think you're a little bit of a crappy. I don't want to say that. I'm kind of kidding. I don't know. So, yeah. Anything else you want to touch?
I think we're good.
Okay, this is just a weird album. Normally, we're used to our let's go through every track, let's talk about every track, and go back and forth. Then we talk about a bunch of stuff. But this format kind of broke it.
We could read off some entire songs in 3 lines. I guess you would already be doing that with the clips.
Yeah. Yeah, that could just play the 30-second clip and you basically have heard the song. Here's the thing, and like I'm gonna say this for this album. We've talked negatively about it. We've talked about how it's still kind of important, and we've talked about how it's repetitive. We talked about how it's kind of obnoxious sounding. When I play you a 30-second clip of this song, it will probably sound even more obnoxious than it does on the album. Like it's going like as a clip, completely separated from everything. It's probably going to sound worse than it is, but to our defense, it's not that much worse than it is. Like I think if you listen to 30-second clips of all the stuff that we thought was cool, it'll sound cool. If you listen to a 30-second clip of this, it sounds bad because it is also not great. But also, we apologize if some of these clips annoy the snot out of you. Anyway, how do people get a hold of you, or is there anything you want to rep? Have you started your fake Instagram account?
No, I need an iPod or something.
Okay, here we go. I'm giving you a 30-second window to just talk about whatever you want to talk about, where I would normally ask you to rep your social media.
Okay, so today in California it rained. So in between my 2 classes that I had, yeah, it was like, okay, so in between I had programming and then calculus, and I have like 2 hours in between. So I went outside, I was eating my can of peaches as I do at school, and it started raining on me. So as soon as the water would hit my skin, it would immediately evaporate off of me and just be gone. It did rain a bit harder, but like to the point where the streets were actually visibly wet. But the Californian definition of rain is very, very exaggerated.
Well, you've come out for multiple summers in a row now, so you've probably seen some like
I've seen some rain. Like, okay, in a week it probably rains. In the summer, a week worth of Nebraska rain is probably equivalent to about a year here. So, and then nothing is like half as drastic or violent at all as what you have. Like
obviously the grass is always greener on the other side. You like kind of think that whether, at least if like, do you think the weather here is cool?
I think it's different. I
My
don't
wife
want to
thinks it's. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, I think you guys have it pretty bad in the middle of winter where you have to, you know, dig your cars out of snow, and like when you have to deal with mudslides, or even a few years ago when you had that river flood. I guess that wasn't like, that was because they like broke down a dam or something. But anyways, you guys actually have to deal with problems where you have too much weather, whereas we don't have enough, which I don't know. It's just a really, really drastic contrast, which it makes it feel awesome, like when I go out there for a week, but at the end, I definitely see where it becomes a pain.
Yeah, like that's the weird. Like my wife, and like I guess my wife is a little bit crazy because like she loves it. Still, she's been living here for 4 years, and she digs like every time we get a crazy hot. Crazy. Well, she doesn't like the hot, I guess, but she loves crazy winter or rainstorms and thunderstorms, and she like super digs like blizzards and stuff. And I would totally be down to moving somewhere where we just had like 2 seasons. Like I do not want the summers that we get because they're so humid, and I don't want the winters that we get because they're so frigid. Like there's got to be like, and the answer is Hawaii. Like Hawaii year round goes from like 70 to 75 degrees. I went there once in the middle of the summer, and it was like, there's, oh yeah, duh. This is why everyone talks about Hawaii being so awesome, because it totally just is. And like maybe I guess it's the grass is always greener. You get bored, but
I feel like we have it pretty good here, except for the fact that we need water. But if it weren't for that, like, here is pretty nice. I'm okay with dry heat. Dry heat is really good. You feel like it's like millions of times better than humid heat. Like when we went out I feel like
the difference is you guys still get up to like 110 dry heat. If you were like 80-degree dry heat, I could totally live with that forever because that's not even that hot.
But I mean, even like 110 dry heat, like you can go out and do something and it's kind of a pain while you're doing it. But then if you step inside a house, you immediately start cooling off and your sweat starts evaporating and then you're fine. Whereas where you guys live, it stays with you because your sweat doesn't evaporate at all.
That's
like
true.
You're just sticky the rest of the day.
I can always come in my house, and I have my thermostat set to 68, though. People in California cannot have their houses set to 68. It costs way too much money.
The cost of living is definitely a lot higher in California.
So, I don't know, whatever. There's our weather update. You can check out my social media stuff. It's Michael Nip, MICHAELKNIPP. Twitter.com/MichaelNip and Facebook.com/TheRealMichaelNip. You can check us out at theculturementpeople.com if you're finding this through YouTube and aren't aware of it. It's a website with a bunch of nerd stuff. I have another podcast where I talk with another dude about random crap and a lot of video game stuff. We post some video game stuff randomly. This is the show we talk about an album a week, if you haven't figured that out. And yeah. I think that'll be another week. I'll edit this podcast. We'll get it up, and then I guess I normally post this one on Tuesdays, so I guess I'll end up posting it tomorrow, or today, because that's how podcasts work. I don't know.
Yeah, they're always live, right?
It's Tuesday. I forgot we're recording this live. I might as well just post it tonight because we already said they were recording. I don't know how to use the internet, evidently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess until next time, this has been I Can't Know Music, I'll Know Music, episode 8.
Yep. Don't go listen to this album. Or you can if you want to, but I mean...
But don't blame us.
You'll get the gist of it.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
What a freaking weird episode.
I know.
The problem is it comes off of an episode that was so good. I loved last week's episode.
Yeah.
Like
it was definitely
discussion. Yeah. Oh yeah, we definitely picked a different album. That's for sure. I'm gonna find a place to insert clips, I guess, though I think it will actually make the episode worse. Or maybe it'll make us sound less like jerks, because I think that like it's hard to talk negatively about something.
It justifies our bad talk.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'm gonna start editing this crap.
All right. Have fun.
I'll see you, dude. Yep. Thanks.
See ya.